So a new pope has spoken, and his very first major message to the world comes down to just two powerful Latin words, Dilexi te. This is Pope Leo XIV's first apostolic exhortation. And, a document like this really sets the tone for a whole papacy. So what's the big deal here? Let's get into it.
This question right here, it's the absolute heart of the Pope's message. It's not just some nice, poetic thought. He's really inviting all of us to grapple with a love that is ancient, that's active, and frankly, a love that's even a little demanding. To really get what Pope Leo XIV is saying, we have to start right here.
The title of the whole thing is Dilexi te, and to understand the entire document, we have to start by decoding these two simple words. We got to know what they mean, and just as important, where they come from, because let me tell you, they are packed with biblical history. The translation is pretty direct, and it's profound. I have loved you. What's really interesting is the tense, Dilexi. It's past tense. This implies a love that's already been given, a love with a proven track record. This isn't some promise for the future. It's a reality, right now, built on something that's already happened.
Now, the main source for this title comes from a place you might not expect, the Book of Revelation. As you can see in this quote, these words were spoken to the faithful church in Philadelphia. And in that context, I have loved you is a declaration of vindication, especially when you're going through a tough time. It's basically God saying, I've chosen you, I've got your back, and everyone is going to see it.
And the biblical roots, well, they go even deeper. The phrase echoes all the way back to the prophet Jeremiah. Here, the context is all about mercy and restoration for Israel. It's about an everlasting love that sticks around, even through failure and exile. So by picking this title, the Pope is tapping into this really rich theme of a love that's both triumphant and incredibly merciful.
Okay, so this deep biblical meaning is obviously central to the whole message, but that's only half the story. To really get why the Pope is choosing this theme of merciful, victorious love right now, we have to look at another clue, one that's hiding in plain sight, the name he chose, Leo. By becoming Leo XIV, he's deliberately connecting himself to a powerful legacy of Catholic social justice, especially that of Pope Leo XIII.
Let's just look at this comparison for a second. On the left, you've got Pope Leo XIII. Way back in 1891, he wrote this groundbreaking document called Rerum Novarum, which means of new things. And it was a game changer because the church finally took on the Industrial Revolution and its harsh effects on workers. Now fast forward to today and look at the right. Pope Leo XIV is from Chicago, a city with its own deep history of Catholic social action. He's taking that same legacy and pointing it at the new things of our time: AI, mass migration, global inequality. The connection is crystal clear. He's positioning himself as a voice for human dignity in the 21st century.
So if the theme is God's proven love and the context is social justice, then who is this message really for? Who's the main recipient? The exhortation could not be more clear about this. This love has a special place, a preferential spot for the poor and the marginalized.
This is a direct quote from Dilexi te, and wow, it is powerful. The Pope isn't speaking in vague ideas here. He's saying that the Church's entire credibility hinges on its ability to see the face of Christ in the most vulnerable people, and he specifically names the migrant. It just completely reframes a political issue into a deeply spiritual one.
And, this focus isn't some radical break from the past. Actually, it's a direct continuation of the path that his predecessor, Pope Francis, forged. By doubling down on mercy and care for the poor, Pope Leo XIV is signaling that a church that goes out to the margins, that's not just a phase, this is the direction they're heading.
This timeline really connects all the dots beautifully. It starts in 1891 with Leo XIII, who lays the foundation. Then you see how that teaching took root in places like Chicago, the new pope's hometown, and then the choice to release Dilexi te on October 4th, the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi, the ultimate saint of the poor. You can see how every single detail here is woven together with a real sense of purpose.
But this document isn't just a call to help the poor. It's also a pretty sharp critique of the spiritual sickness that lets poverty exist in the first place, indifference. And it has a serious warning for those of us who live in comfort.
The point he makes here is absolutely fascinating. He quotes St. Gregory the Great and argues that the real danger of wealth isn't just greed, it's a kind of spiritual poverty. It's the risk of becoming so comfortable that you just lose your compassion, your sense of justice. The rich man in the parable wasn't condemned for what he did, but for what he failed to do, for the hardness of his heart.
So what he's really targeting are the systems and structures that let us ignore suffering.
He's warning against economic systems, social structures, and this illusion of security that create what his predecessor called the globalization of indifference. It's a powerful wake-up call.
All right, so we've looked at the theology and the critique, but this document is an exhortation, which means it's a call to action. So the final part of this explainer is all about what this means for us personally. How do we take this big vision and turn it into actual deeds?
The Pope lays out a simple but really profound three-step path. First, we're called to see, to actually train our eyes to recognize Christ in the poor, the sick, the migrant, and anyone we might just pass by. Second, we have to act. And this isn't about huge gestures to solve world hunger overnight. It's about small, consistent, real acts of love and welcome. That's where it starts. And finally, those actions lead to transformation, because a personal conversion, a real change of heart, is the engine that actually transforms society from the inside out.
This quote from Pope Leo XIV's inauguration Mass just perfectly captures his whole vision. He's calling for a church that isn't a fortress, but a leaven, an active ingredient of love and unity in the world, one that opens its arms and isn't afraid to get its hands dirty.
So, after unpacking all of this, what's the one thing to take away? Dilexi te, I have loved you, is not just a comforting phrase. It's a commission. It's a reminder that because we have been loved by God, we are now sent on a mission to share that same active, merciful, and just love with everyone.
And that brings us to the final question, the one the Pope really leaves for every single person who reads this. It's a question that turns the focus away from the Vatican and right back to you and me. If this love we've received is truly a mission, what's our next step? What's your next step?